Hello everybody and welcome to another boxtail scoop. What's that?
That's my interpretive dance is boxtail scoop.
It's more like charades, isn't it?
Yeah,
Let's
more
be
like
honest.
charades. Apologies.
Or some kind of weird sign language.
I'm an artist. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for that.
So we this week we've had a couple of distractions. We've had a couple of other jobs and things that we've had to go and do as well. However, we have managed to make some really good progress on hair for the male characters here. In fact, it's all been
Boys'
male.
hair
Yeah.
this week.
Hair is mainly Antonia's domain, so I'm sort of going to leave it to you really to explain most of it, and then I might chip in with a few questions when I think of them.
We sort of decided quite early. Well, you get used to, don't you, when you're working together, the things that you feel more confident doing, I suppose, or the things that you're particularly good at. And now we're very good at delegating to the other one when we know the other one is just definitely better at it.
Yes, definitely.
And that's a lot of kind of...
Yeah, I think the two things that go hand in hand with that are we're better at recognising that and at kind of knowing who's better at what. And we're also much better at not being precious about it and kind of recognising that and going, yes, you are definitely better at this. I'm going to hand this over to you. I might be able to do, a certain amount, but I know for when it comes to the hair, it's really best left in your hands.
Mostly because I really enjoy it as well, to be perfectly honest. So we always have a conversation at the beginning of the puppet creation. Once they get to a certain stage when they're ready, apart from their hair, what kind of hair we want them to have, what sort of style, what kind of paper we might use, if we're going to use paper at all, or if we're going to use something else. And for a lot of the early, so for our very first show, we used brown paper, didn't we? Because that was all we had, and that was just how, and it gave them a certain look. It was nice. And then those puppets had wigs that could be removed. So then those puppets were used for 4 different shows, in fact, with different hair for each show. For Alice in Wonderland, they had wool hair, which is so intricate, it took me ages. And for Midsummer Night's Dream and then for Man Alive, they had wigs again that came on in different kind of styles. So for this one, we had a conversation together about what kind of hair we thought they might have, how realistically we wanted it to look, whether we wanted it to be completely stylised. We did talk about the possibility of it being brown paper again, but we decided we didn't want that for these guys. We also talked about the possibility of, using something other completely. You could use text in some way or something like that.
Or some of the text fabric that we use, or some other colours, non-natural colours for hair that might connect with their position in the story, or might have some other implication or some other meaning.
Or we could go for something that's relatively close to realistic. I mean, obviously it's not, because it's paper and the colours are never going to be exactly the same, although this one's pretty similar to my own hair. So we decided to go for that. We just decided that we preferred that for these puppets because their features are slightly over exaggerated, and because they're probably going to have costumes that are a little bit exaggerated. Maybe the colour will come in the costume, but it made sense. The other thing is, at the moment we don't want to spend money we don't have, so there is a practical element to it as well, and that we had this paper already, so this is recycled from other shows.
And if you try it and you see that it works,
exactly, then you kind of go,
sense,
yeah. So I started with this guy, I think, this week. We decided together that Noel had an idea that he thought he would have some hair, but that it would just be on the sides. When I first did it, I did it going straight down like that. I just stuck it with blue tack to show Noel what it might look like, and then you said you'd prefer...
Yeah, I thought it just looked scruffy. I thought it looked like, even though he might be balding, he still sort of takes care of his grooming, so it had to be...
As if you'd put a comb to it and maybe a bit of slick of some sort. Yeah. So then I turned it around and took it this way, and definitely, you were right, it's definitely better. It looks like he's maybe tried to take care of it in some way.
I think it looks great.
I
love what's happened to him. His development overall has been brilliant.
Yeah, he's got a sweet face. Given him a bit of grey, a fleck of grey within the black, and then some nice eyebrows. What I love working with paper with the hair is I coat it in glue in the same way that we would do with the papier-mâché on the face, and then I like to kind of curl it, manipulate it, make little bits of it stick out, go under and over with bits. Then you need little texture bits as well, smaller bits that give it that bit of texture. because it needs to have movement, even though it's static. It needs to effectively look like it could move.
And what's brilliant about this paper and the way that you've sculpted it is that it will hold this shape. So long as you don't mistreat it and squash it against something or flatten it.
It's pretty tough, actually.
Yeah, and it will keep that lovely shape, which is brilliant.
So we're happy with him.
Yeah.
We did a little voting thing on Instagram and Twitter over whether he should have eyebrows or not. Everybody liked the eyebrows, so they got stuck on.
I like the eyebrows.
And then I moved on to this guy. Did I? I can't really remember. And so gave him a little head of hair. This is Tiny Tim. We've decided. So we decided that the Cratchit children are all going to have this colour hair, mainly because it was highly likely that I will be playing Mrs. Cratchit. So it makes sense for them to have a similar colour hair to me. It's quite a nice soft colour on this, warm on these faces as well. So I've given him hair, and again just a little eyebrows. With the male eyebrows, I find that I can do these sort of little flicks in them, because men's facial hair is different to women's. For the women, it's been more tricky to work out how to do their eyebrows. I've made them smoother, in fact. But again, it's kind of relatively natural. I looked at the styles of the time, and again, just using little bits of curved paper and manipulating it with the glue. Yeah. But he's quite sweet.
I love it. I love the detail of it, and I love, again, it's looks relatively simple, but it's the detail that makes the difference. It's the little bit of a wave in it, and it's the sense that it feels like it's been kind of plastered down against
and the
head.
little bits, it's really important, I always find, especially when you're doing a relatively neat hairstyle, to make sure that you get these little wisps, so little flicks that come out the front, because that's what starts to make it look real.
It's such a small thing, but it's suddenly, it doesn't look like it's just stuck on paper anymore. It's, it comes to life.
More like a real, because no one's hair is completely, I mean, my hair goes all over the place all the time. You need those little bits, those little wisps. Sorry, I'm nearly punching you. And then I moved on to this guy. He is, if you know A Christmas Carol, he's going to be Old Joe. So he's he's in this Christmas Future episode, isn't he? So we think he's probably a little bit more, well, you said unsavoury the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, he lives in a unpleasant end of town that he's something like a pawnbroker, I suppose.
Yeah, he kind of seems to deal in the misfortune of others, doesn't he, slightly? Yeah. So we've given him a comb over, not saying anything about people who have comb overs, just that we thought that it was that idea, wasn't it, that he might be a bit sweaty. It sort of stuck to his head a little bit, stuck to his face, a bit unkempt.
Yeah, and the sense that, especially compared to, I mean, he's a good comparison to make to the chap over there, because obviously it doesn't look as if he's taken as much care, and it's all, it's a bit wilder. And
again, in fact, Noel made the point, I'd made this shorter, so initially when I first did it, the hair only came to about there on his face, and you made the point that, again, it was to get that idea that it was a bit unkempt. You thought it would be nicer if some straggly bits, like you just hadn't taken care of it.
Yeah.
So that's why he's got those bits.
Yeah, it's lovely. These little, curls and things here, the eyebrows, love it.
Oh yes, I made sure that he had lots of, wiggly eyebrows. I mean, it's really good fun. It's one of my favourite parts of making the puppets, is putting the hair on. I don't think we're going to give him facial hair. I don't know, are we? I hadn't actually thought about that.
Well, it's funny. So with all of these things, it's a difficult process to go from one stage to the next. Excuse me. If you remember, if you saw the previous video and you saw how nice this guy looked with his top hat and everything, you sort of enjoy getting to a certain point with them. You enjoy the look of them, and you kind of fall in love with them to a certain extent. So to make a permanent change then to the next step, even if it's the right thing to do, it takes a little bit of thinking about it, a little bit of back and forth, and you do stick on some temporary hair with white tack or whatever, just so we can see what it looks like. I love the fact that it makes such a difference. I love that it takes them to the next level again. Just when you're thinking, oh, these looking great, you add something else, and it elevates them again, and again they look great. So maybe we will. Maybe
he might have a slightly raggy beard. Again, like maybe he's not quite shaved.
Maybe you'll white tack something onto it, and we'll go. That's brilliant.
We'll have that.
That's definitely.
There's definitely the one of the characters is definitely going to have a big Victorian beard.
Yes, true.
Which is going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to doing that. So that's where we're at really. The girls, I didn't change much, so I haven't brought them in to show you, but I've just added some eyebrows, which I'm not 100% sure about yet, so we'll see. And I haven't made their bonnets yet, which I'm going to look at next week. Noel's also been making some new faces.
Yeah, then in the meantime, very briefly, as we were saying, we try and split the jobs up in that way. So I've been making more frames to get those new puppets to the initial stage. So we've got this little guy here who's looking quite cute now. His mouth gets stuck there. But he's sort of, much rounder.
You saw him last week in frame stage, I think.
Yeah.
So he's now had one coat, and then I've just done a second coat on him today as well to smooth him over. We haven't sorted this, we're just bending.
He's quite sweet.
He's got a brace at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is potentially temporary. It was to pinch the sides of the face in to make sure it had that lovely round shape. Yeah.
And then we've got Mr. Crazy over here, who...
Sometimes I have to be reined in terms of the wildness of the caricature of them. I need to make a couple of more realistic ones now, so hopefully that's going to pull me back a bit. Not quite sure what's happening with this guy. He looks a little nuts at the moment. But
it's quite funny though. He's supposed to be in the Ghost of Christmas Present. There's a character called Topper, and they play a very extravagant sort of lots of laughing party game. So Noel wanted to make a big sort of smiley, jolly fella who's probably drunk a little bit too much red wine.
Yeah.
And I think he's got that
Who
sense
knows?
for sure.
We shall see.
So that's where we're at really. We've made good progress again, and we will continue to do so.
Yes, so again, if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. And if you can, hit the like or subscribe or what is the other one? Notification bell. That all helps us let more people know about
Tell
the
your
videos.
friends.
Yeah. Thanks.
All that sort of thing.